Greetings to my fellow peace blunderers, and today I would actually like to start with an apology, if that makes sense. I would like to apologize for exposing you to all kinds of crazy that are going to feature in this video. Now, when I was doing the research for this topic, and we all know the job of a researcher is sometimes a very dangerous one, a slippery slope, I completely lost the plot. I could not cope. I had to go to a therapist to do a 6-week intensive course, and here I am back, mostly fixed mental health wise, hence the break, and finally ready to tackle this ungodly topic, which is, as you can see up above, the wild chess of the 1850s. Now, why all of a sudden this specific topic? Thank you very much, Mr. Exclam, very relevant. We've got people fighting for the candidate spots, and you are reviewing games from 170 years old. Brilliant. Topical. But I have a reason. I came across this book by Howard Staunton, which I have heard of before, but I never got to read it. Now, this book covers one of the first really big, if not the first, chess tournaments of its time in 1851 in London. There was a big tournament where all the best boys, all the best chess players in the world came to. Some of them you may have heard of. For example, Kizaritsky, Staunton himself, duh. We've got Forwards, we've got Anderson, all the big boys. Upon reading the book, I found so much fascinating stuff that I couldn't wait to share it with you people, barring the 6-week break that I had to take for the issues that the book caused me. But jokes aside, reading this book was quite difficult because it used the old school proper descriptive notation. If you don't know what this is, well, good for you, you haven't been traumatized. I will, put a screenshot right there. This is how the chess games, obviously have been notated before. So instead of the algebraic notation that we use right now, we've got e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, blah, blah, blah. No, none of that. None of that easy to read stuff. This is, 1850s we're talking about. Instead, what we get is rather cryptic stuff that you need to take a bit of time to get used to, such as pawn to queen, bishop's fourth, pawn to king, bishop's fourth, pawn to king's third, etc, etc, etc. So the system, you may as well Google the system, how it's done. I don't really want to describe it here for brevity's sake, but yeah, trust me, reading this and going through the games in this notation is a bit of a pain in the ass. But what was not a pain in the ass, definitely for me, is reading the language that was used in the book as well. It's so savory, it's so 1850s-like, and it was also obviously written by Staunton, very intellectual person. For example, we have, when criticizing a move that should have been played a bit earlier, Staunton writes, better to have played thus in the first instance. it was really nice. It was really nice to read. Oh, this one, for example. From the moment White obtained an opening on the adverse king's side, he conducted the attack with plausible care and skill. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant, brilliant language. And one final thing, from this moment in time, I am definitely going to call Queen's Gambit declined, Queen's Gambit evaded, as it was referred to in the book, because, I don't know, it sounds cooler. You evade King's Gambit, you dodge it. Queen's Gambit evaded, get it? Huh? Cool. Anyway, so I have looked through a bunch of games from this book, not all of them because that would be way too exhaustive and I just don't have time for that. I looked through quite a lot, and I've chosen a couple that are quite funny, first, and second of all, just looking at the games, I was thinking how some of you guys watching this video may have beaten some of those players 10-0 if you played a best of 19 match or something. And remember, these were supposed to be the best players in the world, but chess has come a long way, and yeah, that's in no way to disrespect those players. Obviously, for that time they were brilliant. It's just funny to take a look back and see how some things were simpler back in the day, were they? And this first game I'd like to show you from Black's perspective, and there's a very specific reason for that. I would like you, my beautiful people of the internet, to try and guess the first move. Now, since some of you may be familiar with how chess was played back in the day, you may correctly almost assume that e4 was the move that was played predominantly, because, you know, we all know Paul Morphy and his adventures in the King's Gambit. And like I said, you're almost correct. Almost. Apart from the fact that it's not actually white who makes the first move. e5. Gotcha, didn't I? And here comes the first big surprise. Actually, up until a certain point in time, which was quite recent, it wasn't actually arbitrary that white starts the game. It was however the players agreed to start it, essentially. And I could not figure out exactly at what time they stopped doing that and when white actually started to go first at all times. I would say it's around 1860s, 1870s, 1880s-ish. So shortly after this tournament, basically, they stopped doing that. But it's funny, isn't it? It's funny. And all the implications that arise from this are also very, very funny. So e5 is the first move, kind of mirroring the e4 that would be otherwise played by white. Interesting. And white responds with the French, kind of, sort of. It's e3, which is, again, it's kind of difficult to classify it as a French, but it is a French in it, because we have also d5, d4, well, definitely a French, just reversed. Exchange French. E takes D, E takes D. And interestingly enough, just like some exchange type openings tend to go even in the modern day, for example, the exchange Slav, this game goes very symmetrical for a bit. For example, knight of 6, bishop d3, don't pay attention to this because the position is about to become symmetrical with bishop d6, knight of 3. That's so unorthodox for black to be up a tempo. It just takes a little bit of time to get used to. Castles, remaining symmetrical. H6, H3, decent. Nothing to write home about, just, yeah. Bishop e6 and now bishop e3. I don't know if this was the theory at the time. I don't know if the players were doing that on purpose or just found it funny to be symmetrical. I don't know, like, all I'm saying is I don't know if they thought that was the best course of action or they just did it for lols, essentially. Now we have c6, which is decent. We have queen d2, which is, okay, not terrible. It's okay. Queen d2, first of all, escapes the symmetry. Yes. Second of all, it has a slight issue of knight e4, which is the best move and the move that was played. You know, the knight comes in into a nice square and attacks the queen. And you don't really want to take that knight with the bishop. You need to move away your queen. And essentially, when you have to move your queen twice, because it was attacked, it's not really perfect. It's okay-ish. So, obviously, the queen went to e2, apart from the fact that it did not. I got you there, didn't I? Knight c3 was played. And, you know, this is not a joke. This is not an outtake. Knight c3 was indeed played. And knight takes queen on d2. Game over. White resigns. I mean, that's just the reality of life. Back in the day, the reality of the chess competition. I mean, if that was Guess the Elo on the Gotham's channel, people would say it's probably, I don't know, 800, 900, 1000 at a push, people playing. But not to be extremely harsh, it can happen. It can happen to anyone, really. Just not in a classical format, not at the highest level, but yeah. Yeah, well, there you go. And for the final game of the video, we actually get to start with white. What? Is that reality? Here goes gravity? What is going on? But yeah, we're actually starting with white. Finally, something orthodox as well. We get e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, d4 takes. We get a Scotch game. Brilliant, brilliant. Finally, but it does go south pretty quickly. It does. And it starts with this funny little gambit, the Scotch gambit, right? Bishop c4, bishop before check, which is the main move. It was then, it is now. C3, all main stuff, pawn takes, main stuff. You don't want to take with either piece. The point of the gambit is usually to just ignore that and castle, right? And very similarly to Danish gambit, like, you don't mind if they take here and you take with the bishop, and then voila, you have amazing bishops. Black did something very funny. Very, very funny though. Instead of playing something normal like knight of 6, maybe preparing to castle, I don't know, something, they played a move that a lot of you guys should just etch in your memory, almost never to play in the openings. Almost never to play. And this is queen f6. This is just a lifelong lesson. Let this game be just, how do you call it, a memorabilia? Is that an English word? Just for you to just set it in stone. Don't ever play queen f6, almost. Because, you play queen f6 and you get what in your face when you have a pawn on e4? Of course you get e5. What did we do? And queen f6, e5, okay, attacking the queen. And like, okay, fine. I guess I'm gonna die then, because of course the pawn is technically hanging, 2 attackers against 1, but this is not a pawn you want to take. Not with the knight. Let's get this, and then you go home very, very sad and probably very drunk. I don't want to take with the queen either, obviously, because of this. So, why would you play queen f6 for it only to get battered? Don't know. Queen to e7. A very, very productive. Very productive move. Now, f6 is not even available for the knight if you want to play it. Now we get a3 from white. Very good move. Asking this bishop a question. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do with your bishop? And this is a very timely question because the queen very conveniently blocked the e7 square. The d6 square is unavailable for obvious reasons. And the bishop doesn't have that many options, really. I mean, a5, c5, okay, but both of them kind of suck. I'm not going to lie. Both of them kind of suck because, okay, you go to a5, you get b4 in your face, and then you get knight 6, c3, and this is just a brilliant position for white. Okay, so fine. Maybe black is still a pawn up, but would you take black here? No. Same story, same shtick as with c, probably. Just take here, but, we get pretty much the same thing. What happened in the game was slightly different, but more of the same. The best move, granted, by black was played just takes, ignoring that bishop threat and taking that pawn instead. Bishop takes b2, and only now does the bishop retreat to c5. The difference is that, like, the position for black is really bad, but the positive difference between this and what I was showing you is that at least there is no longer this annoying pawn on the b file, which is going to harass this bishop even more. Like, the best I can give you. We've got knight c3 developing, all good, all fine. We get d6, trying to understandably untangle a little bit, maybe at least get this bishop out in the castle queen side. But yeah, this is a bit late. The engine is showing some ridiculous numbers like +5. I don't know numbers like those. Knight d5. Now that number I know. That's my language. Knight d5, attacking that queen that again is terribly misplaced. Like, what the hell? So many weaknesses. The queen is in tatters, the king is in the center, and the white is just chilling. Castle, right? Queen d8 has to move a third time. And now we just tear the center open. Tear the center open. Not only that, remember that bishop. You don't want to have black in this position, trust me. And this is the classical thing that you do. Just keep that in mind at all times. When you castle, and your opponent didn't, and doesn't have time for that just yet, you need to look at how you can disrupt and dismantle the center as quick as you can before the king castles, so that you can launch a deadly attack and basically kill the king in his bed chambers, right? And this is exactly what happened. This game isn't going to last very long. Yeah, so the pawn takes and lots of threats are happening. Bishop takes d6. I mean, you gotta address that pawn, I guess. But bishop takes g7 as advertised. Bishop f5. I don't know what this is hoping for, but again, trying to maybe castle queenside. Maybe if we go back, bishop e6 is at least a bit more optimal. Like bishop f. What a bishop f5. What is it doing? Rook e1 check. Very, very, very natural. And Yeah, yeah, black played the worst move on the board. The position is losing like +7, +8 and counting. But the worst move is always the one that allows mate in one. And it's a funny little mate. This is why I picked this game. So knight g to e7, blocking the threats, seemingly. And now, you can, this is easy to find, and I've spoiled it already, but if you want to find a mate in one, please do. Pause the video, whatever. But the mate in one is a beautiful knight f6 mate, obviously. This is all, this is pinned, this is check, this is under control. So good, so good. This is not necessarily a smothered mate, it's just a mate, but it's a beautiful one at that. So yeah, this is how chess was played back in the day, back when the internet didn't exist, back when I didn't exist. Oh, bloody hell, I thought I always existed. And yeah, if you just so happens to find this video useful and or enjoyable and or whatever rocks your boat, please feel free to like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. We are streaming on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, so follow us on YouTube, follow the streams as well. Find me on chess.com, join us on Discord, all that good stuff. And I'm going to talk to you very soon. My favorite unintentional gambiteers. Love you all. See ya in the next one.